What's up, my friends? Welcome back to another podcast. My name is Mike Perrine. This is the Everyday Detox podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, this little guy right here is Pablo. He is the newest addition to our family. He's a rescue pup. He's a Chihuahua. If you watch any of the content that we create on social media, like at the Everyday Detox account on Instagram or at Vitality NYC, you see there's a lot of animals in our family here. We have a Chihuahua, we have a Pit Bull, we have a cat, we have a flock of chickens. Is flock the right word? Do you have a flock of chickens? What is it? What are chickens called? I don't know what they're called. I'm going to go with flock because I think that sounds okay to me. So we have chickens, and Holly has a horse. So there's a lot of animal activity on our Insta story a lot of the time. So I thought I'd give Pablo his moment to make his YouTube debut, and I'm going to let him go over on the other side of the desk and lay down. Thanks, Pablo. So welcome back to another podcast. This one has been in the bank for a while. This was filmed at Vitality NYC in Midtown Manhattan. That's the cleansing and detoxification studio where we do all of our work and where I film a lot of these podcasts. I'm in Oregon right now with the family and with the animals. And, it's taken me a lot of time to get a lot of these podcasts out that I've had saved that I filmed the last time I was in New York City. Because I have a lot of projects going on. We have the Q&A show on YouTube. We have the Insta Story nutritional detox Q&As that I do at Everyday Detox and at Vitality NYC at least 3 to 4 times a week. We have this podcast happening, and then we have all the activity that happens at the studio, and there's some changes, and there's new team members, and there's lots of growth and things going on there. So it makes it difficult to get these out, but really what it is the fact that this is a video podcast. It's something that I always appreciated about podcasts. Like I used to like to listen to them, and I'd be running or cycling, and you'd listen to some conversation for an hour, and then I'd come back home and I would drop onto my computer to check an email, and I'd take a minute or two to drop into YouTube and watch a minute or two of this podcast I'd been listening to for hours, and I was going to continue to listen to when I got on to my next workout or commute or whatever it was. So I can get like a visual picture of who I'm, listening to and what it's about. So I always appreciated that, but it does bring it to a new level of work. Like it takes time. Like there's audio adjustments and color matching and cropping, and just the edit process is much more difficult than if it were purely audio. So I've even contemplated just making this a true podcast and making it purely audio. But because I always appreciated it myself, I think I'm going to keep it visual. And we're going to continue to record these. So I know that if you're watching this on YouTube and you're one of the people that consistently does that, you'll probably appreciate that as well. So that's what the big holdup is. That's why it takes me so long. It's just me being busy. It's the nature of what it is. And anyway, I'm so grateful that you guys like and enjoy these podcasts. I love the DMs and the YouTube comments that will come out of nowhere where people will go, "When's the next podcast coming out?" And I'm like, wow. People are actually thinking about this podcast when it's not happening. So that means the world to me. I'm glad that you guys are finding value in it because I put a lot of effort into these. Speaking of putting effort into podcasts, this one I had put so much effort into. This was filmed at Vitality before I left for Oregon last time. This is with my good friend Rachel Dealto, who I've known for years, who I wanted to have on the podcast almost from the beginning, but things never really lined up with the schedule because she is very busy. She has a coaching practice. She hosts television programs. She does guest spots on morning television. She does TED Talks. She got a very tight schedule. She's not in New York City that often. So this time when I knew she was going to be in the city, I really wanted to strike while the iron was hot. I wanted to get this done. I wanted to be respectful of her time. I wanted to ask all the right questions. I wanted it to be perfect. And of course it wasn't. So I set up this podcast in the morning. I got into work extra early. We tucked away in the sauna room. I set up the cameras, the audio. I prepped the whole office as to how to control noise while we're in there because we were doing this during business hours. And after 3 hours of complete silence while I set up this podcast, Rachel arrives. We have a few sips of juice. We sit down. I start the podcast 30 seconds in. They start removing 1,000-pound radiator from above our heads in the unit above us. There was like concrete crumbs hitting the table while we were working. There's like giant sawing noises as they saw through metal pipes. There was like things dropping. So, it disrupted my flow a little bit. And I was also very nervous going into this one, trying to make it perfect. I don't know what I was thinking. That's not usually how I am. But I edited it. And we got all the noise and the nonsense out. I think I did a nice, clean edit. I think it came out great. I distilled all of the most valuable information. Rachel was a lawyer, and she's also an entrepreneur, and she developed a dating app many years ago. And in the process of promoting this dating app, she was doing a lot of speaking, and people very quickly realized that she was really good at reading people and really good at understanding relationships. And over the years, she has become known as a relationship expert, and she gets invited to do a lot of spots on television. She has a thriving coaching practice, and she gives really, really good advice. It's soft and understanding, yet it's firm and to the point, which is what I think a lot of people need, especially in the dating and relationship world. So I took one of her workshops once, and I was blown away. And ever since, I was like, I really hope she'll agree to do the podcast one day. And she did. And it was amazing. So despite all of the little technical issues and the noise stuff, I think we did really good. I hope you guys will enjoy this one as much as I did. Let's jump right in. Hopefully we have no more noise for the next 45 minutes or so. So we met at Soul Camp.
We did.
It's like an adult getaway camp where people go to like do fun arts and crafts and spiritual stuff. And it's fun.
There really is arts and crafts, so I can't even laugh at that.
There is.
Yeah.
There's arts and crafts. And so the cool thing is they had us do... I actually had to ask for more time. I did like 2 hours of teaching over a 3-day period or something like that. And then that's it. Then it's like eat for free, go to anybody's workshop, do whatever you want. I did go to only one workshop, and that was your workshop.
Aww.
Yeah, because I met you there. You were, I was introduced to you from Bex, who's been on this podcast many times. And I went to your workshop, and I just thought, I don't know, I had a thing, like I knew that like I would like you and we would be friends. And I was like, let me see what Rachel does. And I believe your workshop was on... finding love. And I wasn't really like, I had just come out of a relationship. I wasn't really heartbroken or anything. I wasn't like looking for love or anything, but I thought, let me go do this. And it was literally a group of us sat around in a circle, and it was so valuable. Like that's why I got so nervous about doing this podcast, because I know that the advice that you have, it's so precious that I was like, I don't want to mess this up. Like I want to make sure I capture.
It's a lot of pressure.
Right
I hope
stuff.
I say things that are really valuable.
But
today.
that group was amazing, and I was very impressed by it. And I was like, I hope Rachel will want to do my podcast.
Of course.
But then you did a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole.
Oh, with Tim.
Yes, with Tim, where they talk about like the Illuminati and
Way
chemtrails and ayahuasca, and I was like, oh no, but
I mean that was the most bizarre. It was funny.
Yeah,
I don't even know what I said on that. We were talking about past lives and like Illuminati, and it was bizarre.
It was a fun one.
It was a fun one. I had a good time. We drank
because I was like, well, Rachel want to come on a podcast. Yeah, you got drunk on that podcast.
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not my fault. I know. I was like, I kind of like the juice though. It's middle of the day.
Yeah, let's get high on chocolate. But I was like, is Rachel going to want to come on a podcast where we talk about poop all day?
Who doesn't want to talk about poop all day?
So let me ask you this. What is it like right now relevant in the dating relationship world? Like, what are you like super focused on right now?
There is a level of psychosis that social media has created in dating and relationships that was never there. Think about when we were dating in high school, before the internet was even a thing. You would go out with somebody and meet them and not be able to learn every person that they've ever dated, find pictures of their exes, find pictures of their kids. You know what I mean? That you couldn't go in and sleuth these people and also have all these preconceptions and these stories created based on what you find. It literally makes people insane. Social media makes people dating crazy.
An interesting thing came up for me. Like, I realized that I just escaped this by the nature of my age and where technology landed. But from like, just we'll talk about dick pics for a second and sexy photos.
God.
Like they're like the idea that like, oh wait, the person that I'm with, there might be, depending on where they're at in their dating life, there might be anywhere from 1 to 10 people with sexy photos of your partner.
Yep.
Right. and they may or may not still have them. And it's just like,
Your partner may have 30 dick pics in their phone still.
right.
It's a lot of dick pics.
It's a lot of dick, Rachel. That's a lot of dick.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just had this conversation with a group of college students. We were talking. I was like, I don't envy you people at all, because if I was making decisions in terms of what I put on social media back when I was 20 or what I would have sent to people that I was dating when I was 19, 20 years old and an idiot.
Outrageous, right?
I would have so much out there and it would be awful and I would never be president, which is never going to happen anyway. But yeah, it's a different world.
What ways do you think, like, so aside from, we're talking about knowing each other, like getting to know each other so we can make like a good evaluation on if that's someone that you want to continue seeing. What tools do you like that's different than just like the regular like meet and greet, kind of go out and date and like say hello at the table and have an awkward conversation? Like, is there anything where you're like, this is a better tool for us to get to know each other? Ask these questions when you first.
I'm more about the intention that you put into your dating life before you even get to that point. So I think a lot of people date very unintentionally. We kind of just show up. We're like, all right, who we going to dinner with tonight? Who we grabbing drinks with? And just saying like, am I attracted to this person? Okay, cool. But just like in any other area of your life, the more intention that you set and the more directive that you give your brain and your energy to go towards, the more concise and the more clear the results are. So I say we need to intentionally date. Like if I walk into Marshall's or TJ Maxx, which is a hodgepodge, I don't know if you've ever walked in before.
Wait a second. I think I just did a whole Insta story on this a couple of weeks ago.
On Marshall's or TJ Maxx?
I went into one of these stores.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. Like I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And Holly brought me in there and I was looking at this aisle and like everything was just everywhere.
It's a hodgepodge
and I
of
thought,
holy crap, right?
But I didn't know that was the point.
It's the point. It's
So I
a
thought the
discount
person-
retailer. You go in, it's kind of like a scavenger hunt and it's kind of exciting. However, I have a problem. If I walk in there and I don't know what I'm looking for, I'm like, I get anxiety. I don't want to be any part of it. And I end up walking out. But if I go in and I'm like, I want to find a blue shirt. The way our brain works is we start picking out all the blue shirts. You focus on something. So even in this sea of complete chaos, because it's fucking chaos in there, you see the blue shirts. And it's the same thing with dating. If you start having some sort of intention of what you're looking for, it's a lot easier to find it and to spot it, as opposed to just walking into a sea of people and hoping that your soulmate, falls on you.
Isn't that how it always works though? Whether or not you showed up to a bar or a concert 20 years ago or now if you're on a dating app, isn't it always in a pool?
Yeah, it's a pool, but you have to know what you're looking for and you have to know how to weed through it. So I say set some intentions. And
you have four, what do you call them?
The non-negotiables.
The 4 non-negotiables.
Yeah.
This is what you taught at that class at Soul Camp. And I love
taught
this.
at the camp. And I honestly, it's one of the things I use with everybody and every chance I can get, because it's what sets the intention. So I say to people, you have 4 non-negotiables. These are the 4 qualities, and they can't be physical qualities. They have to be 4 qualities that you're looking for in your person. They're like the baseline qualities.
And they can't be a given, which I love the intelligence behind it. They can't be like doesn't cheat.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of times people will say they'll base their non-negotiables based on pain points. So they'll come from a place of pain. They'll come out of a relationship where maybe they were dishonest or they were cheating and, all these things. Maybe they were, total losers and like lived off you and mooched, and they'll come and say, well, my non-negotiables are is that they can't be a cheater, they can't steal from me, and they can't lie to me. Well, no shit. Like, no.
That's a given. That's like, where's your favorite, pick a vacation spot. Okay. Must have oxygen. Like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's gotta be there. Right?
So the non-negotiables are quality. So at the end of the day, and it's kind of that like 90-year-old sleeping test. Like when you're sleeping next to your partner, when you're both 90 and you look like turtles, what is still there? What are the qualities that are still there with someone? So it's things like intelligence, ambition, kindness, humor, those type of things. And the list could go on forever. And that's the stuff that you need to focus as your non-negotiables.
So in addition to those non-negotiables, you had said something, and I wonder, do you still hold
the
to
makeout
this?
test?
The what?
The makeout test.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So let's start with that. Then there's the
Yeah.
makeout test.
There's a makeout test. So there's the 5-date and the makeout test. So
Right.
it's
oh,
always
it's 5. I thought it was 3 dates.
I've actually accelerated a little bit because I think people still at this point, because especially if the first date is just a meet and greet, a quick one, I like to at least push them to 5. Sometimes they only make it to 3.
Well, before we get into that, I'll tell you why this is important. I have a friend this is where the private investigator comes in. So she had an amazing first date with a guy, was really stoked. Had a second date with the guy. She wasn't feeling herself, not feeling him. She was feeling him, but she
just
was a
wasn't
little
feeling
checked
good.
out. She in retrospect believes it was difficult for him to engage with her because she was very kind of checked out, right?
Okay.
Wasn't herself. Texted him though, had a great time. They made out, whatever. Texted him, had a great time, and I would love to set up our third date. Kind of got a little something back that was just kind of a blow off. Took her like 4 days to hear anything from the guy, and now she's like, oh shit. So it sounds like, because he was very stoked on the first date, he made a decision based on the second date.
He did.
When he should have given it.
Wait, there was a private investigator in this situation?
Well, now what she wants to do, she's like, I can't text him. She's like, I feel like I need to bump into him so I could show him that, like,
oh, for fuck's sake.
yeah. Well, apparently she went to a private investigator.
Stop.
Private investigator's been consulted, Rachel.
Who cares?
Now-
Just move on.
Well, that's one option. Yes, of course. But the private investigator has not been hired. Private investigator has been consulted. And the private investigator says, we do this all the time.
Stop it.
Yes, it's called the bump. It has a name. I'm getting educated on this. It's called the bump. So all they do is they find out when and where he goes to his coffee shop in the morning, and then you're there, and you're like, oh, hey, hi, you know.
Oh my God, people are insane.
Yeah, but it's happening.
People are insane.
It's happening all
The entire
over
world has
city
gone to
of-
shit.
Yeah.
They're all insane. Please don't
So-
do this. Anyone, please don't do this.
We don't know based on that second date what's really going on. So you think 5 dates?
I think 3 to 5. I honestly, 5 is always the number that I'm like, if I can push someone to keep going out that long just to see, because at the end of 5 dates, you definitely know, is this someone that I want to continue spending time with, or is it someone that I'd rather jump off a cliff than see again? So, but with this whole ghosting happens all the freaking time. And and it happens with a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends, where they will literally kind of go a little crazy trying to understand the why. But the point is, who cares?
you got the information.
You got the information. They're not interested.
Right. We hang on to these things. We get weird around stuff.
Oh my God.
I've hung on to relationships for years that I knew did not work.
Yeah, but you were in a relationship, and this happens all the time. Someone will go out with someone once, and all of a sudden they'll think that there's some sort of attachment. There's no attachment. The same as like you just tried on a shirt and put it back on the hanger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, didn't work out. The more, and I question, and again, your friend, I'm sorry if this is insulting, but I question kind of her own self-esteem and the confidence that she has and the security of herself. Because if you're secure enough in yourself, I've gotten ghosted. I was dating someone for a couple weeks, like, and we went out probably 5 or 6 times and just disappeared. I don't care.
There's a thing that happens in New York. I don't know if it happens around the country. I just know because I talk to a lot of women here. It's a very singles city, New York.
There's always somebody else to replace you.
Yeah, and people could be very transitory, and especially for women, I think there's just so much disappointment over and over again when they're being open and open
Yes.
and open and inviting a man in for a date, inviting a man in for a thing.
You're not being open and inviting somebody for a date. You're not being open and going out on a date or a second date or a third date. You're being open and vulnerable when you get into a relationship with someone. You start to kind of let your walls down. But no one should be feeling like they're being open on the first couple dates. You're just having fun.
Or maybe hopeful is what I mean.
Yeah,
I think
stop
they're
with the
getting hopeful.
hopes. Stop with the expectations. Just fucking enjoy yourself.
Well, there are a lot of women in their 30s and 40s.
I'm getting fired up, bro.
I know. There's
Can't.
a lot of women in their 30s and 40s that are like, and men too. But like I talk to more women than not. That's why I'm addressing women. But there's women in their 30s and 40s that are like hopeful. And they're like, shit, I've been doing this since I'm in my 20s with these guys. Now they're ghosting me. Now, like, I can't.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they start to get a little bit of desperation, and private investigators get involved.
I'm mind blown. The thing is, though, I understand that. I get that, because I'm also in that, like, I'm almost 40. All of my friends that are still single, they're here, a lot of them in New York, and they totally have that mentality, and it sucks, and I understand that. However, it's how you approach it and understanding that, listen, part of it is you going after the wrong people. Because I will tell you something, there is not a huge difference between men and women. It's just timing. It's absolute timing, especially for a man. He either has his light on or his light off. And my thing that I see with so many women, they're chasing men with their lights off. They're not ready. They're not interested in a relationship. If a guy tells you that they're just seeing what happens and they're not interested in a relationship, that's not a challenge for you to show up and convince him that you are the person he's ready to have a relationship with.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It doesn't matter. And then we get all caught up with someone who has been honest a lot of times. And it is really 90% of the times where I hear the guys pretty much up front, like, I don't know what I'm looking for. Not saying like, listen, I just want to have sex. I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm not sure if I want a relationship. And all the woman hears is, well, maybe it's me. Maybe he'll like me. Maybe I'll be enough. And then when it's not her, suddenly she's not enough.
God, I thought that coaching people through diet stuff was frustrating because people don't, because it's like, it's so obvious from the outside, but like, it sounds like relationships, like we just do these delusional things.
We're freaking insane.
Yeah.
They're hiring private investigators after 2 dates.
Yeah.
I thought the private investigator was after like someone like ditched off after 6 years of marriage.
Oh, you thought it was a husband or
like something that's actually relevant. Don't waste your fucking money on that.
Yeah. Well, in her defense,
call me do you work with me? We'll get over that before you hire a PI.
I recommend you so many times. I think some people are afraid of you because they don't want the light.
I'm so terrifying.
Yeah. Well, they don't
terrifying.
They don't want the light of reality.
Yeah, nobody likes
sometimes.
reality.
No, they don't.
I do it in a loving way.
You know what you do, and I want to tell you something. I want to compliment you again. There's something that I really liked about your approach is that you understand the wounded aspect of it all, and like, I want to be desired. I don't feel good enough. Maybe that, like you understand that aspect, but you also understand like the reality of from the outside looking in that like he's not into you or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to work.
It has nothing to do with who you are or what you have to offer. But as much as we think that someone else is going to come in and heal those core wounds are the reason why that guy not calling back after the first date hurts so much. Because if your core wounds are kind of cemented up, you won't give a shit because it doesn't matter. They don't matter. If one of your best friends stops talking to you, that matters. If someone that you love breaks up with you, that matters because that's someone who's entrenched with you. And I see this all the time. My God, I have so many friends that it's like, and they're still talking about a guy that they went out with a month ago who never called back. And I'm like, who cares? They don't matter.
It represents something else.
It's a core wound. There's a core wound that has to be addressed there.
Yeah.
So it's never about X, Y, or Z. It's always about whatever's inside. Relationships, whether it's an insignificant relationship like a first date or really intense, exclusive relationships, they shine a light on everything wrong with us. Everything. I'm still crazy. Like as much as I give advice and I work with people, like I still have moments where I feel insecure in my relationship. And I literally have to be talked off a ledge. Like from my best friend, I'll call up and be like, I know it. Like I can feel it. I'm like, insecurity came back out. Don't know where it came from. Got to talk it out. And it's typically a 24-hour window and thank God it goes away and stuff. But I'm saying like, that's where I get it because I still feel it. Relationships and love equals psychosis.
Wait, relationships and love equals psychosis.
Psychosis. It's insane. It's not logical. It's not logical to have that intense of feelings. Heartache is real.
Yeah.
Heartbreak is real.
Like it makes us physically sick.
It's a physical, you have so many effects from love that I honestly feel like we all get a pass to be a little bit crazy. Don't waste money on a PI, but
we had some questions coming from Instagram.
Okay.
For you.
I love questions.
Do you think a relationship can heal and recover from cheating?
Yes, with major caveats.
Uh-huh.
There has to be massive changes. And what I see oftentimes is that people don't change. They'll change temporarily and then everything will shift back. Like I'm talking about like really intensive work of figuring out the why and then recommitting to it. But without that, like once you break trust, it is so difficult to bring it back. So the spouse that cheated has to be willing to work, instead of 100%, it's like 400% for as long as it takes. And there also has to be a significant amount of forgiveness on the person who was cheated on, because if they don't forgive and truly forgive and know that they're capable of forgiving and moving on, then they're holding it over their heads for the remainder of the relationship.
Yeah, and they can't use it as ammunition when they have their next fight.
Yep.
And I think the person, too, that got cheated on, I mean, this happened for me in one of my relationships, and that relationship did not survive ultimately, but I don't even think I had that much anger around it, because I saw my own responsibility in it.
Yeah, and realizing
okay,
what we all do to create it, and sometimes, but there's cases where it really wasn't the person's fault. Like, they didn't do anything. It's just someone made decisions or didn't respect the relationship enough, or, just shouldn't be in a monogamous relationship, which is another situation. If you shouldn't be in that, then, self-acknowledging that and not entering them is really important. But
yeah, I have like very close friends, and I'm so glad they healed that, because now they have this amazing family, and and it was just like this thing that kind of made them
it's
stronger.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and people have to humble themselves, and that's the problem, is that there tends to be humility in the outset, and then as time goes on, you kind of fall back into old ways of behaving, and they lose that humility, and then it becomes kind of an issue.
Okay, I want to end with this.
Okay.
And I don't usually this isn't one of those things where I can't stand when people do this to me, when they're like, so I ask every guest.
I was like, is this some sort of kitschy little podcast ending?
I don't do any, I have no formula to these things. But it's something that I contemplate a lot. It's actually, something like some of the advice that I give people on relationships. I don't know if I'm qualified to do that, but when they're trying to get a sense of somebody, to me, I always want to know, like, it's not my first question, but it happens somewhere in the beginning of knowing someone. Mm-hmm. It's like, I want to know what they believe happens when we die. Because I feel like from there, you can get a sense of how they're going to behave in life and what drives their decisions.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's because you'll figure out, is somebody, do they hold on to a religious experience? Mm-hmm. Are they, they have more new age ideas? Like, you kind of get a sense for like what drives somebody's morality. Right?
Totally.
So I'm curious, what do you believe happens when we die? Because you believe that relationships are the top of everything for the human experience. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's how we evolve as humans.
Yeah. So for me, that almost suggests, I mean, if a relationship is important, and if the idea of emotional spiritual evolution is accepted, it almost suggests that
we'll have future lives.
That we have future lives somehow, right? So I'm so curious as to what you think about this.
So this could be a whole different podcast. But so I started meditating probably 6 or 7 years ago.
What kind?
Legitimately, it was like a crappy app is what I started with, and in Shavasana and yoga. So I started practicing yoga. So it's not like I studied TM or anything.
Right.
I literally just got quiet. And then I started with hypnosis, because I'm a hypnotherapist. And the experiences that I had blew my mind, legitimately blew my mind. Past life regressions, cord cuttings, crazy, mystical, amazing experiences.
The experiences you personally or with your clients?
Personally had. And then learned how to do. So I had it myself, actually, on Bex's yoga retreat.
Wait a second, but the past life regressions, those happen naturally to you
No, I did a past life regression with a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
And then I was so blown away by what happened that I then studied hypnotherapy about 5 years ago.
Gotcha.
And so I've been practicing hypnosis since then, and obviously have had a lot of experiences with clients, but I've also had my own really intense personal experiences. And what I had found is that I do truly believe that we are evolving as souls, and relationships on earth as humans is how we evolve. And then after we pass, we kind of have just a divinity of pure love. Like I believe that and the only way, and it's not quite this, but this is what I see it as, is almost we're kind of like star beams of pure love. And then whether or not we choose to come back and learn our lessons again and evolve from that point on, I think that, there's kind of a hierarchy that we try to achieve. And our purpose is really to continually evolve so that humanity as a whole is a lot more loving.
I'm right there. I thought that's what you were going to say. I'm right there with you because I mean, I did read. I always felt that way, but I did read some work by Brian Weiss.
Yep,
Do
Many
you know who he
Lives,
is?
Many Masters.
Yeah. If anyone's not heard of him, he's psychiatrist that was traditional, Harvard educated, started regressing people just into childhood through hypnosis. By accident, regressed people into past lives, thought it was their imagination, sat with it for a couple of years, and then figured out it wasn't. So when I read those books, I was like,
Yeah.
that's exactly like he's just written and described everything that I believe, because otherwise, I mean, what would it be worth?
What the hell? Why are we here?
Why are we working on a relationship
What are we
with
doing?
somebody? What does it matter? You know
yeah.
what I mean?
And why
It's like
does love feel like the biggest draw out of everything?
all of it?
Why is it our biggest beyond money, which obviously people do love money and they love material things, but beyond that, it really comes back to love. So why would that be part of it unless just evolving as a human, evolving personally, if that's not the whole point? And it's funny. So I'm touching my side right now because I have a tattoo of Be Love on the side of me. Because in my first hypnosis experience, I met one of my guides and I asked him what my purpose was.
Spirit guides?
Spirit guide.
Oh yeah, come on, let's go with this.
And
Tell me more.
he told me that my purpose, and I was a freaking lawyer turned like entrepreneur turned coach. At this point, like my woo-ness was like, woo, baby woo. Actually non-existent. I'd done yoga. So I'm like literally talking to this dude in my meditation and asking him like, hey, now I'm here and doing some hypnosis and I'm on a yoga retreat. Why don't you tell me about my life's purpose? And he said to be love. And I was like, well, that doesn't really give me a whole lot of direction. I was like, that's a lot. Like, couldn't you tell me like I'm supposed to be a cashier at Target or something?
Right.
Like,
That's very general.
yeah, I was like, be love. But as it evolves.
Like voices or like how?
No, see, full vision.
Full vision.
Full vision.
Okay. I've never had. I mean, I have had some experiences like that, but not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm always so fascinated by these.
Yeah, and then it's gotten weirder throughout the last 6 years, a lot weirder. And it's interesting. One of my clients now, she came to me as a relationship coaching client, and we just started getting into kind of the woo stuff. And she's like, who are you? She's like, you're like a vitamin infused cupcake. Like,
yeah,
she thought she was getting like a cupcake. And then I'm like, oh no, send me a picture of someone and I can read them. And like, I can read people's energy. I can read and I can tell you a lot.
What kind of information can you get from people?
It depends what you're asking for. I can get answers pretty quickly.
Like you could read me right now?
Like, what do you want to know?
I kind of almost
Well,
don't want to know because I love the mystery of life.
Yeah, I know. So do I. So I think it's, and there's times when you're not going to get an answer. And like, I'll ask for things for myself and, try to understand kind of what's coming next. And I'm not going to get that. But the be love and what I believe in terms of how souls evolve and why we're here and what we're trying to do as a humanity, like that's always kind of, that's there.
Well, yeah, I love that you got a direct communication where you're like, no, I saw the person and we talked, because whenever we talk to like psychics or whatever, it's always like, well, they're showing me a shape and it like looks like a squirrel silhouette.
I get that too, though. Like I get weird. So it was funny yesterday. I was talking to one of my friends who's having some trouble with guys. Obviously, that's what all my friends come to me for. And I get metaphors, like visual metaphors in my head. And what they showed me, like I literally got this super clear. She was saying like, I don't know, like I feel like I kind of have this, wall up and it's not the right timing. And I don't know, if I'm going to start meeting people again. And I saw this popcorn popper, but like old school, like the metal, like the pan with like the lid, the glass lids where it starts to pop up and then pop out the top. And it showed me, to me, that answered everything. I was like, you're going to have all of this coming at you, but the timing's not right. And it just showed like this very, very simple image that I think translates. And I think that's what a lot of psychics do, is like they'll get an image and the translation could be wrong sometimes.
Well, that makes sense for you to like, so you're almost assisted like divinely through forming your own
through
thought,
popcorn,
through using, but using your own, minds to direct this message to whoever you're giving it to. So that kind of makes sense. But
yeah, a lot of weird shit though.
But, I have no idea what the follow up spirit guides on the beach with, but
that's another day.
All right, so all of your projects are top secret, and you don't want to talk about any of them. So we're not going to promote any upcoming books or anything
I got
like
nothing.
that. You had a podcast in 2012 that you seem to have forgotten about.
I did. I totally forgot about that for a second.
Way ahead of everybody with podcasts, but you're not doing any now. So
no, it was a lot of work.
It is.
I give you a lot of credit. It's a lot of freaking work.
It wouldn't be if I just did audio. I decided that everything needs to be filmed.
It's still a lot of work. Like sitting down and actually scheduling people and doing it. Like I found it to be a lot of work.
It can be if you want it to be right and to be fully prepared for people. It's very difficult for me to do these now with running the studio. Yeah. Because I thought I had this like romantic idea like, oh, I'm going to like work for 12 hours and then we'll just set this up and do a podcast at 9 p.m. And it's like, I had the energy physically for it, but mentally I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to be like present with what someone's really about and like, talking about
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot to be on.
So I get that.
So no podcast.
You would have an amazing podcast though.
Yeah, here I am though. I'm on yours. So much easier. I'm going to go freeze myself afterwards.
Yeah, we're going to do a cryo session. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. After all these years.
I appreciate it so much. I know everyone got a lot of value out of this. I always do. And you're welcome back anytime.
I'd love to.
I promise I'll make it weird next time. I feel like
we have so much weird stuff we could talk about.
I know. I was very nervous about this one, and of course they happened to do construction for the first half of it, and just the way it went.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thanks for having me.